it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today is a really fun technique. This one is also super simple, which is something that I love in my card making, but the finished design is really fun. So I am going to take coloured cardstock. You can definitely create your own cardstock. You can use pattern paper, or you can just use normal coloured cardstock like I'm going to today. I'm starting off by using this roses pack. This one is the scrapbook.com paper packs, and this one is the A2 size, so it's 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, but obviously any packs are going to work well. I'm picking out 4 or so colors that are going to work well together, and then I'm also going to have a white panel that I'll add to this as well. Now, infinity dies or stacking dies are a little bit key here. So I'm going to keep this super simple because simple shapes like circles, squares, rectangles, those sorts of things are almost an essential. I think if you are into die cutting, then these stacking die sets are something I use in most cards. So I would definitely recommend when funds permit that you could invest in some of these shapes, which are just staples in my craft space. So I am picking them, I'm actually picking them kind of 2 apart. So in this stacking die set, this one is the Hero Arts Infinity die set. There are lots of different companies that do them, but I do love this one. And I am picking them so that they actually have 1 die in between, so it gives a decent amount of space as well. Now this is the fun part where you get to decide the order. The order does not matter which colors you decide to do first. I have chosen to go darkest. My darkest color there is going to be in the center, but you might choose to do it the other way around and go from light to dark and have the darkest around the outside, or you might just choose to mix them up or have rainbow. I mean anything. Literally anything is going to work here. So I'm just going to lay these out on my pieces of paper, as I said. So my smallest one that is going to be in the center is going to be my darkest red that I have, and then I kind of go pinks and almost that apricot color as well. So once I have got those all taped down, I prefer to use a little bit of low tack tape. I use the mint tape from scrapbook.com, and this one is my absolute favorite because it never ever tears. It is the perfect amount of tack. Now just to add something a little bit more as well, I'm going to bring in, this is the inverted stitched scalloped circle dies from Dress My Craft, and this is just going to give the outside ring of my circle a little bit more pizzazz. So I just want a little bit more of something, but you could definitely ignore this step, and if you've just got the circle dies, the plain circle dies, then you are good to go. So I'm going to cut this fancy one out of my plain white cardstock, and then I will do the circles for the rest of the colors. But I do think, again, if you're going to go one step kind of fancier, if you already have the stacking dies and things, then these sorts of scallop circles or stitch circles or whatever you're into is definitely something that steps up your card making as well. So once I have run all of those through my die cutting machine, I'm just going to pop a little bit of the low tack tape on. I purchased so many low tack tapes to find the one that I liked the best. I went through a phase where I kind of couldn't find one that I liked, so I bought a few of them, tried them all out. In fact, I bought most of them, tried them all out, and the mint tape from scrapbook.com is by far my absolute favorite. You can reuse it over and over again. It lasts ages. It's the perfect amount of tack. Never had it rip my paper. All the good things that I need in my low tack tape. So here is the thing. We are actually going to be using the outside of this rather than the circles that we have cut. So save all the circles because you can pretty much do the same technique but in reverse. So you would use the inside circles to create your shape as well. But for today, I'm going to be using the outside circles. I don't need all the excess paper around the edge though, and this just adds a little bit more bulk to my card. So I am going to trim most of this off. Just make sure you don't go too close to your circles or the shape that you choose to do. But I can definitely trim plenty of that off and then pop those scraps aside. There is heaps of good paper left there. For the smallest one, which I didn't cut out a circle because that's obviously my center, I just cut a rough piece of cardstock from it, and I know that that is going to be in the middle. Now, as for embellishing or decorating these, the world is definitely your oyster, but I have fallen in love with rub-ons. I tried these a little while ago and I love the 49 and Market rub-ons. They are beautiful. This is the Strawberry Lemonade Sherbet set, and this is absolutely gorgeous. I can see how I could use all of these, so I may as well get a start on them, and I want a little bit of texture for the background here. Again, I'm just using these colors as the background because I'm going to use the butterflies as one of my main parts, and using these for the backgrounds means that everything is going to color coordinate lovely, just perfect. So all I have to do, I'm taking my smallest piece here, and which is going to be kind of the inside circle. Now if you didn't have the rub-ons, then the Transfer Me sheets, these ones would be really cool. This one is called Dream Door, and you could add some of that floral bits and pieces to the background there. That is one option, or another option, which I'll show you but I'll show it to you properly in the video. This is the text background stamp from Woodware, and you could use it with a little bit of the embossing ink. So this is the Maker Forte one, but any embossing inks, watermarks ink you could use and create a little bit of background texture, just something. So have a look through your stash. You could use any stamps to go in the background, but those are just a couple of suggestions. And then once for the rub-ons, these are obviously super easy to use. You just peel off the background and then pop it down where it wants to go. Use the little stick or something flat or a bone folder or something like that to give it a quick rub all around, and then you can peel off the top film and you are left with your design on your paper. This does not come off. These are super sturdy. I purposely held on to a few of the cards that I created using these rub-ons for a few months, and they are absolutely in perfect condition. Even though my kids have been playing with them, there's no peeling up or anything like that, which I was most impressed at, because you do not want something to start falling apart once they've had it for a little bit. Now this is where you can stack them. So you can stack them perfectly centered, you can stack them a little bit off center, and I think that's the look that I am going for today. So I have always called these like stacking shapes or step up shapes, these cards. So I don't know what the proper name is. I'm sure there's a proper name for this technique, but that's what I've always called them. And then all I do is use some liquid glue. I have the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish inside this little glue bottle, and I just pop a kind of small amount. I don't want anything to ooze out anywhere, but I make sure that it is sealed right around that little circle. And then I am just going to pop it down. As I said, I'm keeping mine all a little bit off center, but I'm also going to show you another card as well that I created, and I am going to use different shapes, but I will keep those all centered. So at the bottom right hand side there, I kind of have the circles a little bit less, and then there's more room over to the top left up there. So we are getting there so far. This is what the back looks like, and I know it doesn't look pretty, but I promise you this is not going to be on display, so we are going to be just fine. Now this is where my scallop circle comes in, and it cuts out all of these pieces, which gives me lots and lots of options, but I think for this one I'm going to keep both pieces because that is going to be my background, or kind of my card front, should I say, that will go onto my card base. Always my favorite, this is the Concord and 9th, all the birthday stamp set. I have used this one over and over. I absolutely love this. I'm going to stamp out the kind of scripty birthday word in some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I want to do it now because this is the most even that my surface is going to get before I glue this down and have bits and pieces behind it, so I need to do it first. I get the scalloped piece kind of where I want it to go, and don't worry about the colors in the background. Don't worry about anything poking out of the sides. We are going to take care of that in just a minute. Now I started putting glue on this piece, but decided that actually I would do the scallop piece first, and that way I could get it centered exactly where I want it to go. That's just a personal preference. I can kind of imagine where I want things better. So I will pop a little bit of liquid glue around this one, make sure I have it lined up, and then push it down. I know that this is a really nice strong liquid glue because it is going to stay in place, even nothing is going to be moving, given that we have so many layers popped together. I do suggest that you use thinner cardstock for this. I wouldn't use really heavy, you know, like 110-pound paper for every single one of these layers. If you do that, then I would suggest using a little bit of foam tape to kind of pop it up when you pop it down onto your background, and that way it's going to keep everything even, whereas at the moment the papers that I used are thin enough that when I pop these down, it is not going to make any bulk at all onto my background. So I decided that I liked just a little hint of color coming through with this one. So I took one of the background colors and then I'm going to glue this down onto my little matting layer that I have used. And I mean, if I had thought about it, I probably just wouldn't have cut out that tiny little piece at the beginning, but you know, that's okay. We all do things a little bit later on sometimes and change our minds. And then I will also use a trimmer just to trim down those edges. This is a really small border around here. Now, coming down to the decorations, I have used some of these butterflies before. I absolutely love this. I have quite a few videos now on using these rub-ons. I really love the 49 and Market ones. They have absolutely gorgeous designs and fantastic quality, but just really good value for money. There's a lot of rub-ons in here, so I appreciate that. Then I am going to pick out 3 different butterflies. I kind of have roughly a large, a medium, and a small. Now, if you don't want to, you don't have to cut these out of their transfer sheet first. I prefer to cut them out because that way I know I'm not accidentally going to transfer one of the ones I didn't want to, even if it's just, you know, like a little dot from it or a little wing or something. You would hate to ruin a whole other rub-on just for a little accident. So I prefer to just cut these out and then pop them down onto a scrap piece of paper. Give them a good rub and so that everything is nice and secure. And then that little one I had his little tip of his wing that I had forgotten. So once I've got that, I'm going to fussy cut these out. And this is really pretty easy because the edges are all super straight. So it doesn't take me too long at all. I did end up leaving their antennae on, but they look just fine and they weren't too tricky to go around either. A good little pair of fussy cutting scissors is definitely one tool that I would recommend to have in your craft space if you are just beginning. I prefer to use those little Cutter-bee ones, the little yellow and black ones, and I've had these for years and years and years. This is also one of the die sets that I find myself going back to time and time again. This is the Celebrate Words Fancy Dies from Hero Arts. I just love the range in here, and I also love pairing these with stamps. I kind of do one die cut and one stamp. I have layered these up a little bit, so there are a few layers. It is nice and sturdy. It's going to pop off the background just a little bit. I use my little trick with 4 pieces of double-sided tape on the back there, and I have the little tabs out the side so that I can line them up and pop it down with an even border all the way around. Then with my word happy, I'm going to pop this down just with some matte medium, and it's going to sit just above the word birthday, obviously, so it's a happy birthday. And then with the little butterflies, I want their little wings to stay popped up, so I am going to pop a little bit of foam tape behind just the first 2, so they have kind of the biggest wings. The little one is pretty little, and so a little bit of foam tape on each of these, and then the third one I'm just going to pop down with some glue. Now I just thought I would give you another option. I'm going to run through the second card pretty quickly because you get the gist of how to do it by now, but this is the first card complete with my circles, and I think this looks pretty good. I was happy with the way that this one turned out. And the second one, I'm actually going to change it up a little bit, and we are going to use some hearts. So with this one, I did some of the die cutting to begin with. Now I have picked 4 blues, and I have die cut all of the hearts out. Here is that text background that I showed earlier on. I actually used some clear embossing powder with the watermark ink, and that is just going to create my background texture here, seeing as I'm not going to use those rub-ons for this one. So I am just going to cut that little bit out and make sure that it is big enough for my next heart to go on top of. I have I think I'll show you in a minute, but this is the honeybee stacking heart set. I think with hearts, it's a real individual preference as to what style of heart you prefer. There are lots of different kind of, you know, skinnier, more angled and detailed ones, or these kind of wider, more plain ones. I like these ones. This is why I went with the honeybee stacking ones, but there are lots of different companies, as I said, depending on your kind of style of heart that you prefer. Now for this one, I wanted to stack these pretty much centered, nice and even. I didn't want to have them off to one side or anything. So with the liquid glue, it gives me a second to adjust these to make sure they are relatively even all around. And then once I have all of my layers, I can pop my white one on top, and I think it just makes everything really, really pop. Now, what I decided to put on top of these, I could not resist purchasing these. This is from Honeybee Stamps. These are the gorgeous little babies stamps. So these are absolutely gorgeous. When I saw them, I just couldn't resist. I'm going to use my Tri-Blend Spectrum Noir markers. So all I've done is stamped out 2 of the bees. There are 2 that come in the packet. And I've stamped them both out so that they can be facing each other. And then I did use some clear embossing powder to go over top of them. The Spectrum Noir markers are my absolute favourite. These are worth investing in if you think you are going to be keen on alcohol markers, but you can see that they have a light, a medium and a dark. So there are 3 pens in every barrel. Now, albeit this is a little bit of an investment, this is the only alcohol markers that I own, and I like this because I don't have to pick through and sort the kind of light, medium and dark gradients of each coloured pen. I think this set is just great. I mean, it's great for people who love alcohol markers, but if you're not good at that sort of thing, or you don't prefer to take the time to sort the colours that you might use, then I would definitely recommend these pens. These have been brilliant. I've had them for a really long time. I have not had any of the pens run out on me, and I use these quite a bit. I think because of the ease of choosing the colours, I definitely reach for these more rather than when I had some separate individual alcohol markers. So if that helps you out, then have a look at those. Then I decide to fussy cut out these little bees. Now I am going to cut off a few bits and pieces from him, but that's okay. I would also recommend taking a black brush marker or something like that. This one here is the Kuretake black brush pen, I think it's called. Anyway, it's only around $1.30 or so US dollars. It's very, very cheap and cheerful, but it is a beautiful pitch black color, and I absolutely love this for my card making at the moment. I only purchased it a couple of months ago, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's a really good, affordable option for all of your kind of black marker needs, and I did use it to fill in my little bees. But when I'm doing fussy cutting, I always go around the edges and make sure that I cover those up, and that makes your fussy cutting look a lot better. So once I've gone this far in the card, I don't want to muck it up just yet, so I'm going to use my stamping platform to stamp out a little really easy sentiment. I'm using I think this is the Curly Greetings Happy Birthday, and I have someone in mind for this card, so there was kind of a reason why I was doing all of these little bits and pieces that is going to suit him very well. But I'm popping this down in the corner. It's going to fit nice and snug. I'm just using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, so nice and dark and crisp stamping pigment ink. I did stamp these separately, the words happy and birthday, and that way I can get them a little bit closer together rather than the photopolymer was kind of hindering me being able to get them quite so close. So if I do them separately, it means that I can get them nice and snug. Then I used one of the blue layers, the same cardstock, and I created a background for my panel. And then I will pop this one down again using some liquid glue so that I can slide it into place. There are a few finishing touches that I'm going to do to this card, and I think they really make a difference. So first I am going to add some little kind of trails from where they were flying, so to speak. So I just take that black marker and I'm going to go around the edges to create a really nice little fine I don't know, flying trail or whatever you'd like to call it. And I'm going to do the same for this other little bee. I was kind of practicing where I might want it to go and then pop in his little trail. I think that adds a little bit to it. Then I'm also going to use some glossy accents on his little wings, on their little wings. So just a little bit. This is a dimensional product that is going to dry nice and clear, and it's going to be a little bit shiny and a little bit dimensional as well. So just a little bit extra for the wings. And then the last thing, which I nearly forgot, is to pop back on his little antennae, maybe on their heads. I'm not sure what those are called, but pop them back on. I almost forgot that I cut them off when I was fussy cutting, but luckily I remembered just in time and popped them back on before I had finished the card. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed watching this, please let me know in the comment section down below. It makes the world of difference to a YouTuber who puts up videos and to kind of have that interaction in the comment section. That's one of my favorite parts because It is a little bit weird. You're kind of talking to yourself when you're doing voiceovers and things, and it feels like you're talking to all of you, but you just kind of get the replies a little bit later on with your comments down below. So we really appreciate you taking the time to do that and to give the video a thumbs up and all those sorts of lovely things. As always, I will have the products listed down below, not even if you need to buy them, but if you just want to check them out and have a little bit closer look to see what you might have similar as well. But if you purchase them, that helps me out a lot too, which I appreciate. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, bye!